Good evening, everyone. I'm Monica Baumkamp-Ania on behalf of Education for Tomorrow Alliance. Welcome to the March Distinguished Speaker. We're very excited for you to hear about chemical engineering and about a great career at ExxonMobil and kind of what that career is doing now to help students like yourselves as they're figuring out what's next in life. And kind of put those plans together. So as always, we thank our supporters. I want to thank the Ironman Foundation. I know some of the students in the room maybe have volunteered before, but they are one of the organizations that makes grants to our career programs to support programs like this. And with that, I will turn it over to our program director, Ashley Willett.
Welcome, students. As Ms. Monica said, my name is Ashley Willett, and I'm the program director with Education for Tomorrow Alliance. We're so thankful that you're here with us tonight to hear this wonderful speaker and hopefully glean some knowledge that you can start applying to your life. So just logistically, we will start and end on time. As you noticed, you got entered right at 6:30, so we will also end at 7:30 to honor our speaker's time and your time. If you are a Academy kid, I don't have your forms, so please speak with your headmaster about any forms that you need for your credits. There will be 3 ways for you to ask questions during the webinar. The first one is to use the raise hand feature once we're in the Q&A section of the webinar. We will not answer any raise hands during the actual speaking time, but once we are in that, you can use the raise hand feature. You also can put your question in the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen, or use the chat feature to send your message to the panelists. With that, I'm going to turn it over to one of our longtime members and board member, Annie Bradbury, who is a senior vice president at Woodforest Bank.
Thank you so much, Ashley. I'm excited to be on here tonight with all of you, and I am looking forward to introducing our speaker tonight. Y'all are in for a treat. A little bit about Beverly. Beverly Mentzer retired from ExxonMobil after working 33 years in both domestic and international engineering and managerial positions. During her career, she traveled extensively and held 16 positions, from entry-level engineer to vice president. She graduated with a degree in chemical engineering from Louisiana State University. At Purdue University, she serves as an industrial career counselor for chemical engineering and has been an industrial mentor for an NSF Innovation Corps project in environmental and ecological engineering. Beverly joined Exxon Production Research Company and worked in process engineering and global technical support. Through multiple positions at Exxon, she managed onshore and offshore oil and gas field operations, projects, production facilities engineering, geoscience, and subsurface technical support, labor relations, regulatory compliance, and strategic planning. She was on the Petroleum Engineering Advisory Council and a campus recruiter for engineers at LSU. As the business development manager for Exxon Pipeline Company, she had responsibility for asset sales, acquisitions, new business, tariff filings, and shared oversight of the Trans-Alaska Pipeline. She served on the board of directors of 2 lower 48 joint interest pipeline companies. Beverly led a technical and economic assessment of liquefied natural gas and gas conversion technology as the Alaska Gas Commercialization Manager, while working with state government, joint venture partners, and potential Far East customers. In London, she had responsibility for all the technical, operational, commercial, environmental, financial, audit, and external relation aspects of ExxonMobil's UK non-operated oil and gas production assets. This business unit contributed $1.5 billion per year in profit and spent $2 billion per year in operations and capital expense. So that's just a little bit of Beverly's many professional accomplishments, and thanks so much. So Beverly, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Annie, Ashley, and Monica. I'm excited to be here talking to all of y'all that are on this webinar today. My daughter, long ago, I'll say, was an intern with the Education for Tomorrow Alliance, and I've volunteered and done different things over time, so it's really great to be able to contribute here. I would like to ask y'all one question to get started. And I assume, Monica, they could put things in the chat now, right? Okay, while I'm sharing my screen, put in there, what is your hope for this next hour? Why did you join? And that'll help me kind of focus my comments and make them better to serve you. Let's see, I don't know that I'm seeing anything in the chat. My chat went away when I went to screen sharing.
Ashley, is the chat open, you know?
Here come a few things. Thank you very much. Kimberly, Bella, Maya, have history. Let's see. Learn more about chemical engineering field. See if you find it interesting. Great. Hope to gain info on engineering and the Exxon job. What is your job? What are other jobs? To learn more about it. Industry R&D. Yeah. One is interested in nuclear engineering, but interested in learning more about chemical, the college experience, and just gaining knowledge. Okay. Thank y'all that contributed to that chat. I really appreciate it because I can hit multiple things there, throughout the talk. So I have combined some material from different talks that I give at Purdue University, some about my career, and that I call From Engineer to Executive, and some about what chemical engineers do. So, from a university perspective, I'm an LSU graduate. My kids went to Texas A&M. Now I'm a Purdue University employee. So, I've seen a lot of different universities too, and can comment on that if that's of interest. I also want to say that while college is very functional, like you're a chemical engineer, nuclear, mechanical, civil, electrical, materials, whatever, when you go to work, that blurs a whole lot. And basically, engineers solve problems and pursue opportunities. And so at the college level, you practice that a whole lot. And then when you go to work, like I did mechanical engineering work at times, and you interface with a lot of different functions. So hope that's helpful and glad to answer any questions about that as I go along. So 3 key questions I'm going to answer for you today. What are my options in chemical engineering? Can I get a job? And what do I want to do? How to think about that question. Now, I have an asterisk there because you have to answer the question, what am I good at? And what am I interested in too? So you want that overlap between what you're good at and what you want to do for a job. So we'll go through all of those. Quick overview. You got the intro. So I would say one takeaway I want you to have is that the engineering career in energy that I had is a lot more fun than taking all the courses at the university. So I know even my son, who was a mechanical engineer at one point, said, "Man, if this is what work is like, I don't know if I want to do this." But believe me, you work with people a lot, you travel a lot, see a variety of things. And so applying those skills are more fun than doing homework, taking tests, etc., the world that you're living in now. So I've had a lot of variety, technical, managerial, commercial, executive level, multifunctional. So working with like lawyers and accountants to multi-companies, where multiple companies come together. Worked in the US. I have traveled all over the world, pretty much wherever we had some operations. I'll share the details of that with you. We lived in London for 4 years, and I just love that part. So it was a really supportive, fun work environment with the colleagues, different adventures, meeting some VIPs. Kevin Costner and I were both speaking at the same conference one time, and he wanted to meet with us. You never know what life may bring you. So I also met my husband at work. So we've been dual career and had 2 kids. So I mentioned one's a mechanical engineer and one is an economist, the one that was an intern with EfTA. And overall, the good times outweighed the stressful times, but every job has its ups and downs. So a little philosophy here that I'll sprinkle in, success equals preparation plus opportunity. And I know the types of people you are that are on this webinar, you are focused on preparation. That's why you're even involved in this program. And there will be opportunities coming your way. And since I sailed catamarans for many years, I love this picture and the phrase, you can't control the wind, but you can adjust the sails. So congratulations to each of you for taking charge of that in your career planning. I want to share this list with you that a group of engineering managers put together, and it was the top 6 attributes of successful engineers. And you'll notice that it doesn't say anything about their technical skills. So your technical skills are the ticket to the ball game, so to speak. But all of these things that I know you're working on even now, positive attitude, teamwork, problem solving, communications, results orientation, organizational and multitasking skills are super, super, super important. So I encourage you, as you finish high school, continue into college, keep developing those skills and they will serve you well in your career. A couple examples for me, when I was in college at LSU, I joined an organization and I had leadership opportunities. I had to do public speaking, which I'm still not sure is one of my favorite things to do, but you expand and grow in those opportunities that really work toward getting out of your comfort zone. I like that picture of the turtle getting out of its shell. Growth hurts. It's not comfortable. It's not a lot of fun. But the more you do it, the easier it gets, and you get to expand to so many opportunities. So the picture on the right, here I am having dinner with, in between 2 retired Air Force officers that would probably be more comfortable talking to my father than talking to me. But you go through that kind of experience, and then next time it comes around, you're feeling even more comfortable in carrying on that conversation with someone that's, 40 years older than you. So back to chemical engineering. So what are the options? The options are great. And what I do at Purdue University is help students get jobs in industry based on my work experience and my knowledge of that. So if they want to be a university professor, there are other experts out there that can help. But, I worked in research, I worked in operations, commercial areas, quite a variety. So I would say here's the outline I'll kind of walk through, but who will you work for? You can work for industry, you can work for academia, you can work for the government, you can work for a private company, you can be an entrepreneur, and you can work for yourself. So there are a myriad of options. And then I'll go into greater detail on these 3 questions. What will you provide to society? Products, services, or information? What type of work will you do? And all of these are available, from creating, designing, to building, to operating, to selling, to providing support for an organization. And what sort of lifestyle do you want while you're having your career? Personal preferences, location, work culture, that sort of thing. So going to the second question, can I get a job? The answer is absolutely yes. Engineers are in high demand. And I'm not just talking chemical engineers here. Purdue University has an engineering career fair every September. Over 400 companies came last year. And in a prior data point, over 150 were hiring chemical engineers. So let me see if we can turn this on. Slide.
The Industrial Roundtable is the largest student-run career fair in the country. We have about 380 companies attending this year. Estimated in the past has been around 12,000 students. The cool thing about it is that it serves all STEM majors. So whether you're engineering, whether you're biochem, whether you're like a business major with a technical focus, hire's the best for you.
Be in touch.
People are looking for a range of job opportunities, whether that be a co-op or an internship, really the entire range of employment opportunities.
So I hope that gave you an idea of what an engineering career fair could look like. And I do encourage you when you're looking at universities and making those decisions, ask them, how many companies come to campus? What's your track record of students getting jobs after graduation and the opportunities that they have available? So let's dive back in. So what will you provide to society? And again, I could be talking about mechanical engineers too. There's a lot of options here. But products could be chemicals, food. Frito-Lay has offices in Dallas. So people have gone to work there making things you'll see at the grocery store. Electronics, energy, the oil and gas we've talked about, electricity, consumer goods. If you think of everything you see at the grocery store in a package, someone had to make it. So different pieces of equipment, all of the pharmaceuticals, drugs we take, agriculture processes that happen. And even I consider college graduates a product of the university system. So you could also provide services like consulting, engineering, procurement, construction, technology, commercial services, writing agreements, supply chain management. You can go on and get a degree in law, medicine, or an MBA. Or you can provide information like science and research, data, or new ideas. So here are a few examples from my career. Here's a product that I was involved with in my career with ExxonMobil is liquefied natural gas. The molecular structure is that little carbon in the middle with 4 hydrogens on each end of it. And that's all it is. But to produce the natural gas, you can see there's a production facility. Here it's offshore. Then there's pipeline to shore. Then there's an onshore plant for treating, i.e. cleaning up the natural gas if there's contaminants in it, like carbon dioxide, hydrogen sulfide, nitrogen, helium, which is a contaminant, but also highly valuable too. And what happens in this facility is it's a giant refrigeration unit and it's chilled to minus 260 degrees Fahrenheit. So all these gas molecules contract to a liquid or put on a ship, sent across the ocean, because the gas resources are not always where the market need is. And generally, they'll go to Asia a lot, also Europe, and then that natural gas is heated up again and can be converted to electricity or used for heat and cooking, if you think of your gas stoves. Now, I also wanted to say that carbon and hydrogen are the building blocks of many, many things. You and I are about 30% carbon and hydrogen. Plants are about 50%. So there are many products beyond the energy piece that are made from carbon and hydrogen. You can see pictures there. 70% of electric vehicle, is made from those components. Wind turbines, solar panels have some pharmaceuticals, a lot of products. emergency rooms, hospitals, all the fancy clothing fibers beyond polyester, Gore-Tex, spandex, are all made from carbon and hydrogen. So sometimes you might be working and you're making an intermediate product that then is sent to another company or another operation to make a final product for the consumer. So a service example that I delivered during my career was helping write a computer process simulator to optimize this system that you see, which is showing offshore platforms and gas and liquid pipelines north of Scotland and bringing the production into the UK. Now, I mentioned I love to travel, so these were my first trips to London and really enjoyed going over there to meet with the operator of this system and talk about this tool that we were developing for them. I've also provided information during my career. We were working with the state of Alaska, and I had to provide information to Alaskan government officials in testifying congressional hearings. And the picture on the right is when we brought down some Alaska state legislators to tour a pilot plant for a new technology that our R&D organization had developed to better understand it and build confidence in that. So a lot of different things can go on there. So what do I want to do for work? There is just a myriad of options here, and you can decide what's most fun for you. Some people really love the creative process and want to be in R&D and generate new ideas, things that don't even exist yet. And then other people may take those ideas and figure out how to make them work, do a pilot plant or lab scale. And then in the design phase, I talked about everything that's packaged, has to be made somewhere, what you might see in a store. Well, someone had to design what the product would look like, what it would be, what the properties are. If it sits in a hot warehouse, is it still good? If it sits in a cold one, but also what's the equipment that's used to manufacture that. So there are different stages of design. And then you can get into building the equipment. Project management skills are super. Maybe you like construction, being out of doors, startup, logistics, getting equipment delivery, all coming in, everything arriving at the right time. And then operations can be terms usually used are production or manufacturing. And this is something that's running 24 hours a day usually. And so you want to make it as efficient as possible, as low cost as possible, fix what breaks, troubleshoot things, create new opportunities, expand it, for new products. A lot of people go into marketing, technical sales. Maybe you don't want to do, detailed design engineering, but you really want to be talking more with people and customers and those relationships. And then every large company has a lot of support functions. This is where I said, do you want to specialize or diversify? My career was more one of diversification, but if you love environmental, you can have a full career in environmental or health, safety, strategic planning, business development. You can work in commercial agreements and negotiations. You can work with intellectual property lawyers on licensing, patenting. You could be someone training people in the organization or managing human resources or move up the leadership chain to executive level management positions. So there is a ton of opportunities out there. Here are a few examples of things I did in my career: operations and maintenance. These are things, locations plant operations that I went to on the left in the swamps of Louisiana, and the right offshore Gulf of Mexico. I'd fly out in the helicopter, spend several days and nights offshore. The living quarters is kind of hanging off on the left there. You can see it. This was also one place I did some mechanical engineering because they said, hey, we need you to take good care of this machinery, pumps, compressors, turbo machinery, rotating equipment. I really liked it. So I'll also say that we played a lot of pool at night after dinner. And so this was the peak of my pool playing career when I beat the mechanic and the helicopter pilot in the same night. So we have fun while we work too. When I was working for our research organization, I led a group that did environmental research. This is just one example. I don't know if you have ever thought about what the impact of sound is, almost as a pollutant, if you think of it, something unnatural in the marine environment. And we studied the Sakhalin gray whales off the coast of Russia. We studied turtles that were nesting off the coast of Australia and trying to find out one, if we're making construction noise in their environment, just like if someone's building a house next door to where you live, one, what sounds are they hearing? Because animals and marine mammals hear at different frequencies. And then what do they do when they hear that sound? Do they just grumble and go around and get away from the sound? Or do they are so traumatized they never eat or breathe again? So you've got to understand what your impact is on the environment that you're working in. I will add, working for ExxonMobil here, we are not experts in whales, turtles, dolphins, and all that. So we would fund university or marine research organizations to actually do the work and provide the answers that we needed to operate in an environmentally sound manner. Design and construction. This is some pictures from a commercial demonstration plant we built to prove up some new technology for carbon dioxide removal. And it's interesting watching the entire cycle from just an idea, even pre-research and development. Why can't we do it this way? Something brand new. To doing the research, the development, the chart on the left, economic analysis. Do you really have an idea that's going to be more cost effective than conventional technology? All the way through doing the design and the operations to prove that new technology at scale for commercial application. Now, as a manager, one of the jobs that I really liked was when I was vice president of engineering for a production company. And that was managing the processes of engineering development and deployment around the world. We had about 3,000 engineers all over the world. And the goal was to get the right person in the right job in the right place at the right time while balancing business need, their personal desires, their career development, and government regulations. For example, work permits to go into a country. One time we had a dual career couple. We were trying to relocate to Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and she got her work permit approved and he didn't. So then you've got to go back to start and figure out how to balance all these things again. But it's really exciting to see people developing in their career and achieving their potential. So what do you want to do as far as lifestyle? This is your very own personal questions, about work-life balance with family. What fulfills you? What makes your day exciting? What pay and benefits will you get? What job security might you have? I know my son did not take his highest paying job offer when he graduated from Texas A&M, and the company that offered him the highest salary is no longer in business, whereas the company he hired on with, Chevron, is still going strong. You probably have location preferences. You want to be in a big city or a small town, geography. I interviewed Procter & Gamble in Cincinnati, Ohio in the middle of an ice storm. I'm a Southern gal. They could have offered me $1 million. I just didn't want to go that far north. So, what's the economy like? Safety in an area? What services are available? I talked to one PhD student. He had a great job offer from Dow Chemical, but it was a small town, and he was just not real sure about going to a small town. So, where do you want to go every day? Do you want to go to an office? Do you want to go to an industrial plant? Do you want to go to a laboratory? A field site, a little more rural? Do you want to go visit customers? Do you want to work remotely? Or do you want a hybrid job, sometime in the office, sometime remote? And then what culture do you like? What values are important to you? The people, the policies, company size, work hours. Do you want a high-paced, fast-paced environment? Or do you want something that's a little slower? Do you like to travel or you want to stay home? You want to wear blue jeans or you want to go business casual to work? Are they going to develop your career or do you need to quit and move to a different company to develop your career or get training you need? And is there a good teamwork environment or is there a lot of competition? So there are just so many options out there, and you really do have an opportunity to design that life that you want. So my philosophy through my career has been that life is a process, not a product, and enjoy it along the way. So really making the most of those opportunities. When I was working the Trans-Alaska Pipeline, we did a lot of operations oversight, but we also went salmon fishing and halibut fishing for team building experiences. So something I wouldn't normally have done. I also mentioned I like variety. In the travel, you can see the list of locations, countries that I've been to from, living in New Orleans, living in England, in London, traveling to, place nice kind of Western culture, Australia, but then going to Chad, Nigeria, Angola, and Equatorial Guinea, going to Kazakhstan, Vietnam, the Mideast, Qatar, Abu Dhabi. When I was in Africa on one trip, the gentleman on the left was my security guard. So that's a little different experience. And when I was in the UK going offshore in the North Sea, I had to go to North Sea Survival School, where you did a lot of exercises in your waterproof and thermal line survival gear you see there. And what's hanging over the pool is a mock-up of a helicopter. And the final exam, you might say, was you got in the helicopter, put on your seatbelt, they lowered you into the pool, switched you around a few times, and then you had to get oriented and swim out safely. And they also had divers in the pool to make sure that happened, but my heart was pounding a bit. So some wrap-up food for thought. Our life isn't born of the things we expect to see, but of all the things we never expected. So you will do a lot of planning for your career, but there are going to be some opportunities along the way where you've got a fork in the road and you get to decide which way to go. And particularly in the STEM area, I think it's so exciting. I worked on things in my career that did not exist when I was in college, and I know you will too. And then I like this other quote, I don't think of work as work and play as play. It's all living. So make the most of the total package there. And then I will open it up for questions. This is a picture of when I was an advertisement in Fortune magazine, which I can definitely tell you I never expected to do. So kind of a day in New York City. You never know what'll happen. All right.
I'm just going to start as we open the chat and allow for students to put their questions in the Q&A or in the chat. Um, when you signed, like, I guess, what did you expect when you took your first job? Like, what did you kind of think it was going to be? Because it sounds like it went many different ways that you didn't expect, but kind of what did you think? And I think, and I say this kind of in the context of a lot of the students that are listening tonight, they might be like, I'm interested in STEM, I'm interested in engineering, right? But they have no idea like which path that could be.
Mhm.
So what did you think when you got the chemical engineering degree and headed out into the world? What did you think that was going to look like?
Oh, great question, Monica. Well, first, I have to say I had two internships in the field of oil and gas operations or energy. So, and I am a big advocate of internships in the summer. You get to experiment. If you find out you don't like a job, that's great too. As great as finding out you do like it. I know one student had an internship with ExxonMobil, and then the next summer she went with Anheuser-Busch, and came back to ExxonMobil in the end. So, for me personally, the way that played out, I had seen some of the operations and I interviewed a lot of companies. I knew I liked that area of work. But then I found an affiliate that worked internationally. And I really picked that company because I loved the idea of working beyond the US borders. And when I went in, though, and it's every job has pros and cons. So I like the hands-on part of work. I like putting on my blue jeans, hard hat, steel-toed boots, getting out in the field. But this job, you were more of a consultant for the foreign affiliates. So every product was a piece of paper for someone else to take action on. And I wasn't that wild about that after a few years, but I learned a lot and kept going. I do have to say that when I first got there, they put me on the job of building that computer process simulator. And I thought, oh my gosh, I have no idea how to do that. I did not come here to write computer programming language. And I had what today we would call imposter syndrome. Back then, there wasn't really a word for it, but I thought, I wonder if I should get out of here before they figure out I have no idea what that is going to be about. But they train you, they teach you, they had the experts there. So you're always learning and growing.
Thank you. We are going to bring a student over to ask a question. Kimberly, you want to unmute yourself?
Maybe she wants to ask the one in the chat. What led you into the career of chemical engineering? Or was I always 100%? You want me to take that one on? Well, I was very focused on you go to college to get a job. And so there were other careers that did not have that direct connect, not as strong. I even thought of being a lawyer, and I thought, well, if I do 4 years of pre-law and then I don't want to go to law school, kind of what do I have? But for engineering, I had some very just typical assumptions. Like I thought mechanical engineers worked on their car every weekend, and I don't do that, so I probably wouldn't be competitive. Electrical engineering was and still is a mystery. I thought civil engineers just built roads. That didn't sound too exciting. I knew nuclear, petroleum, those were maybe pretty narrow, and I'm like, what's left? Chemical. Let's give it a try and see what happens. That was it.
Sometimes process of elimination leads you to the right place, right?
That's right. Knowing what you don't want to do. But it worked out. Otherwise, I would have found something else.
We thank you. We've brought Kyle over. He has a couple of questions to ask. Kyle, if you're trying to speak, maybe check the volume on your computer or your phone because we are not hearing you.
Okay, so maybe I'll go back to the chat, Kyle, if this is your question. As someone who works for Purdue, do you think Purdue is worth it for mechanical engineering, even if that means you pay an extra 20,000 a year? Well,
He
as
had a
a
question about that too, Ms. Metzer, just so you know. He had two questions.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I should go backwards. Do you think oil and gas will be a large part of society in 20 years? If so, why? If not, what do you think society's main source of energy will be and why? I guess I'll take that one first. The answer is definitely yes, out to 2050 for sure. What energy is not going to be an either or, it's an and. Because the population is growing, economies are developing in India, China, third world. And so while renewable energy is growing, the total need for energy is still growing more. So everybody's, growing. And then when you think of all those other products too that are involved beyond just, you know, natural gas fired, things, electricity, transportation, fuel, gasoline. There's a whole lot more products out there that are still needed, made from those building blocks. As far as working with Purdue, do you have a question, Ashley? Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, as a parent, we had the same question, do you pay out-of-state tuition or not? And certainly you can go for scholarships and things like that. We always felt like if it costs 3 times as much, you better like it 3 times as much. And so visit the universities and make that decision for yourself. I thought my son might have gone to Auburn or Clemson. We spent a lot of time there, and in the end, he came back to Texas A&M, an in-state school, but we weren't limiting the options of where to look. Purdue has frozen tuition for, I think, 13 years now. So they've taken a unique approach. So they're actually getting some out-of-state students who come in because out of state at Purdue was cheaper than in state where they were. So, yeah, but I understand the financial decisions there. Hope that
I
was helpful, Kyle.
I was just gonna ask if you would add on. Somebody asked about competitive major, and since we're already kind of in the Purdue world, would you mind just quickly saying anything that might make them a better candidate? Because it is a competitive major, right? Depending on where you go, what would make them a better candidate in that competitive, in your major, in the competitive field?
Um, well, high GPA is great always, but I will say there are a lot of CEOs that didn't make above a 3.0 in college. So remember those other characteristics. They're always looking for leadership. You've got to be a great communicator. So I'd say if you can keep your GPA above a 3.0, that's good. Above a 3.5 is great. Don't sweat it. If it goes from 3.9 to 3.8, that's not going to make a lot of difference in whether you're a candidate for a job. But really, that ability to work with people and get things done. And when you're interviewing companies, you have to prove to them that you have those skills by showing examples of where you've already done it. Not just saying, I'm hardworking, I'm committed, I'm a great communicator. Tell me when, how, what did you do? What did you accomplish? That's what's really important.
And I would agree absolutely and say that goes for high school jobs as well. That goes for your summer job. That goes for why should be the president of the XYZ club, right? That examples being able to flesh out. We talk about that a lot when we talk about mocking. Great. I'm going to bring Japesh over to hopefully unmute and ask his questions.
Hello. My first question is, how did you navigate challenges as a woman in a leadership role in a historically male-dominated industry?
Okay, great question, Japesh. I would say I was in kind of a transition period in my career. So the process I applied was to try to increase my effectiveness with all different types of people that I had to work with. So when I first went to work, there were a group of new hires, out of the university, things like that. That's easy to get along with. But there was all this group that were like should have been all my dad's friends, So you're having to talk to these 60-year-old men, when you're 21. So just figuring out what works for them, how to be effective. And I still recommend that. So there's, gender diversity, age diversity, socioeconomic diversity. At one point, I worked as a manager over operations of all the hourly employees, the folks who didn't go to college, the electricians, mechanics. And then you get to, figure out how to work with old men in America, and then you're in Indonesia working with old Indonesian men. So, and going to the Middle East as a woman, was a challenge. Now, ExxonMobil had a full day course on how to operate effectively in the Middle East for everybody. But then I think I'd been working about 10 years when the word diversity kind of hit the world. And so then there was more awareness about, women, minorities, everything, in the workplace. So, but also I was in a very professional organization. So I know there's some companies, because you hear stories, it's like a one-person show and their value system permeates the entire company, and it can be good and it can be bad. But ExxonMobil's the type of company that has very high integrity and very strong positive values that really help support everybody in the right ways.
All right, and my second question was, how do you think artificial intelligence and automation will impact the energy sector in the next decade?
Wow, it's going to be huge. It already is. There's so much going on. I'll have to tell you, I'm not an AI expert, so as to how it's going to impact it, watch this space. But there is so much going on already, that it's going to be something to watch. And we just hope it's all used in the right ways, because there's a lot of ways to misuse it too, as I'm sure y'all are aware.
I'm not a great AI person either, so I identify with that as well. Arjun, I see that your hand is raised. I'm going to move you over if you'll unmute yourself and ask your question.
Oh, hello. So my question is, so you discussed about how you chose more of a diverse work path, and like also you're a VP. So I was gonna ask, does it make a difference in getting like an executive position in your workplace if you have a more diverse work history versus a more specialized one?
First of all, it depends on your company. I always say if you have that question, read the bios of the people who are leading the company and see what their career path has been. Because some companies value the specialization more than the diversity. Now, within ExxonMobil, we had executive level technical people in addition to executive level managers. So, like our chief machinery engineer could rise to the same level by specializing. But if you want to go into management, a lot of people kind of envision that if you like working with people, Although sometimes, the laws of nature are easier because they don't change from day to day, like people change their mind from day to day. But as you grow up in management, you have a broader and broader span of control. So if you've only been in one piece and then you're managing like this, it's great if you've had some different experiences as you went up the ladder so you can understand what the people, that you're helping as their leader, what their challenges are.
Wonderful. We're going to move Michaela over. Michaela, if you will unmute and ask your question.
Um, if you're interested in software and programming and also chemical engineering, is there like jobs available for that, or is that coming in the later future?
There are definitely jobs available. You have to decide kind of which way you want to come in, what's most important to you. So there are computer science degrees, which are more focused on the software. And there's computer engineering degrees that are more focused on the hardware. But any engineering, chemical obviously too, uses a whole lot of computer tools to simulate things and predict and do mathematical calculations. And one big growing area is big data, data mining, because now the computers can store tons of data. Like an operation, you can store everything minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day. Looking at airplane flight schedules, for example, it permeates every industry. And if you have the benefit of all this data, and this is where AI will come in too as it continues to develop, is how can you mine that data to obtain insights and knowledge that previously we couldn't really gather because the data manipulation process was too hard, you know. So at Purdue now you can go into actually a data mining dorm and they work on that regardless of what your major is, how to integrate big data in with your career and have knowledge on how to do that. Which I'll tell you is a skill that a lot of the older folks don't have. Obviously, it's something, again, that's come along new.
Thank you, Michaela. All right, Luke, I'm going to bring you over to unmute and ask you a question. No mic. Okay, his question is around finding trust. I'm not 100%. I understand exactly what he's trying to get at. So I will try my best and we will see. He's asking about finding trustworthy information sources about natural gas treating and liquefaction. I don't know if this is for a science fair project or something that he's working on. Do you have a thought about that?
Well, the word trustworthy is pretty loaded there, as opposed to what do you think is not trustworthy? But I would say what people's perception is usually is that I don't want to hear what a company who has LNG has to say, but I want to hear from a third party who may be more unbiased. So I would say look up government information, whether you want to know, what it is pretty straightforward, but where there's imports, where there's exports, what the future is, the energy outlook, the International Energy Agency, government has gazillion charts on predicting where energy demand will be in the future, where energy supply will be in the future. So there's a lot of information out there about it. And then you can always compare it to other sources.
This question sort of ties in. It's really, Thao, if you can unmute yourself and go ahead and ask your question.
Tell me more about the future of chemical engineering and how do you think they will change in the future?
How chemical engineering will change in the future, or engineers will change in the future?
Oh, chemical engineering.
Like trend. I think she's getting trends. Like what direction is it going? What are some things that maybe to be aware of if that's a field you're interested in entering?
Okay. Well, since I'm at the university, there's a lot of research going on around me. I would say one of the big things, and it's AI related, is machine learning. How can you optimize that by, learning through processes? Chemical engineering, obviously, is a lot about chemical reactions. If you put A and B together, do you get C or do you get S or Z, whatever? And now there is a professor who's doing some research on, can you figure that out with a computer as opposed to actually having to do it in the lab? So the lab simulation is important. One thing I've learned a lot about there too, because that particular part of the country has a lot of pharmaceutical companies. Eli Lilly, Pfizer, Merck. Down here, we're more energy related, although we've got the Med Center. And there is a ton of work going on inventing new drugs, but also how do we manufacture drugs cheaper to make them more available to everybody? Not these super duper drugs, but they're so expensive that, people really have a hard time accessing them. So, how do you manufacture it?
This might be the last of our time here, Christopher. If you can unmute yourself and ask your question. Okay, I will go ahead and ask it. Let me get back to it real fast. Because I think it's a great way to end. It says, his question says, what distinguishes a good engineer from a great engineer?
Ooh, wow. That's a great one. I would say an engineer who is equally successful in a variety of different situations. So, just to give you an example, so if you can work on a project for as long as you want and come up with the answer and communicate it well and say, get the funding you need and solve the problem, that's great. But what if it's an emergency? Can you do the same thing 5 times faster? So, or can you do it only with people you're comfortable with? Or can you do it with people that you're not used to working with? So just think about problems in different situations, in different people, and how to be effective in either pursuing the opportunity or solving the problem, regardless of what the situation is around you.
That's great. I think that's a great one to end on. Sorry, Ashley, go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask you kind of a weird question. If you could send a 60-second advertisement clip back to yourself at 17 or 18, what would your 60-second clip advice be?
Oh, wow. You should have warned me about this. Um, let's see. The first thing that popped in my head was don't worry as much. It's going to be great. There is so much opportunity out there. Yeah.
I think that's great. I think this world is sometimes really easy to get wrapped up in something being perfect. And if it's not perfect, you move on to the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, just to honor your time, we are at 7:30 on the dot. So students, if you will please help me thank Ms. Mentzer in the chat just for her time. We really appreciate all the wealth of knowledge you were willing to share with our students. I know I learned so much. Students, our last DSS of this semester will be April 10th. So be on the lookout for the next DSS speaker.